So I'd now like to call to the stage our speaker, Rich Stinson, and our fellow Rotarian, Glenn Jackson. And as Glenn and Rich are coming to the stage, let me give you a little background about Glenn and Rich. So Glenn, of course, has been a fellow Rotarian here for many years, and Glenn called me up a while ago and said, we really need to get Rich Stinson here to the club. And he gave me a little background on Rich. A 40-year veteran of the electrical industry, Rich joined Southwire in October of 2015, and he leads the company's strategy and efforts sustaining a multi-generational future. Most recently, Rich was named Georgia Trend's 2023 Most Respected Business Leader, and he actually made the cover of Georgia Trends, so congratulations. It's a great article about Rich. Headquartered in Carrollton, Georgia, Southwire was founded in 1950 as a privately held company in the wire and cable manufacturing area. Today, in conversation with Glenn, we'll learn how Rich has led the company through an incredible period of growth and transformation, helping drive this leading wire and cable company into a thriving $9 billion diversified electrical powerhouse. So please join me in welcoming Rich in conversation with Glenn.
Rich, welcome to our club. We are so thankful to have you here today, and I'm also very thankful for our friendship over the years, so welcome.
Well, Glenn, good seeing you again. It's been a couple weeks, but it's always good to spend time with you. You know, I wasn't nervous at all to come up here just to talk about electrification until John told me this is the fourth largest Rotary in the world. Now I'm thinking, wow, this is a big deal. So anyway, I'm proud to be here, glad to be here. All the great work that you guys have been doing over the last 110 years is absolutely outstanding. You have a lot to be proud of, and I'm just proud to be here today.
Well, proud to have you here, and you've been leading Southwire now for almost 10 years. Tell us a little bit about what, Rich, most excites you about the direction that the business is heading right now.
Well, it's a great time to be in the electrical industry. As my friends from Southern Company know, it's a great time to be in the electrical industry. It's an even better time to be at Southwire. You know, this is my 42nd year in the electrical industry, and being a power engineer right out of school from the University of Pittsburgh, working for Westinghouse Electric, not so exciting, let me tell you. But in today's world, things have changed greatly. We're moving away from an oil and gas economy to an electrified economy. And I see this through two lenses. The first lens is being the chairman of NEMA, the National Electrical Manufacturing Association. And from that lens, you know, we have 350 members. We hire over 1.7 million people. We ship over $180 billion of revenue from those companies. And things are just booming. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. And then my lens as a CEO of Southwire, we're now 9,000 people, as John said, $9 billion, and we continue to grow. And, you know, it is an exciting time. So for some of those of you who don't know why it's an exciting time, electrification is really happening. It's only a matter of time that we do move from this oil and gas economy to the electrified economy. You look on one end of the energy continuum, and you have demand. Demand on EV vehicles, EV infrastructure, the whole electrification of seaports, the whole electrification of airports like Hartsville and Savannah for the seaports. You have 5G, you have mass transit being electrified. But as Chris Womack and myself were talking about at lunch, the data side is even moving faster. The data centers are growing, and the thirst for knowledge and data is really great. And now we have AI really coming at us that we'll talk about in a minute. But that's why it's exciting. I mean, we're going from 9 billion, and I'd like to think in about 3 years we're going to be at 12 billion just because of the amount of work that's out there. We're investing $1.5 billion. That's $1.5 billion to upgrade our facilities, both from a capacity standpoint and modernizing all our factories. So there's some really good reasons for us to be excited.
Speaking of lens, you've got a great lens on our state's economy right now. How do you think the overall economy looks in Georgia right now, and do you have any concerns about our economic well-being long-term?
Yeah, let me go with why I think things are just upside. You got great schools like Georgia Tech here, University of Georgia. You have Southern Company here. You have Home Depot here. You have Delta here, Chick-fil-A. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And I'm just proud of being from Southwire to be standing up here in front of you. So you have a lot of great executives from a lot of great companies. As you know, the state continues to grow. The number of jobs continue to grow. You have the ports, and that really helps you a lot. You know, and Southwire, you know, I mentioned we're going to spend $1.5 billion. We've already spent over $900 million. And we're continuing to invest. We're continuing to be the employer of choice. And a lot of good things are happening in the state of Georgia. Of the 9,000 employees, about 45% or about 4,000 of our employees are in Georgia. And I mentioned, you know, being the employer of choice. I mean, we're doing a lot in our factories to improve them. And, you know, things like we spent $150 million and we have a new copper rod mill, the biggest one in the world, where you get ingots of copper on this side and what comes out on the other side is just wire that we can use in making wire and cable. We're just updating our warehouses here in Villa Rica with sensor-guided, laser-guided vehicles in those warehouses, automating those places. We just opened a big office in the Battery. Our headquarters is in Carrollton. We're upgrading those facilities. So just a lot of great things going on in Georgia. A lot of great things going on in Georgia for Southwire. The one thing I do worry about, and you and I have talked about this, and anybody that'll listen to me, we talk about it, is the fact of skilled labor. You know, everything from millwrights to electricians to electronic technicians to just about anything that's skilled. We cannot get enough skilled labor. So we're working with tech schools, we're working with high schools, but the one barrier I think for even further growth is going to be around technical people. And the rest of it, all upside, Glenn.
Got it. Let's talk about reducing the carbon footprint, a major concern of yours and Southwire's as a whole, and how increased electrification is the solution here. Share with us a little bit about your thoughts on the carbon footprint.
Yeah, the carbon footprint from the 1960s to the early 2000s, the carbon footprint here in the United States doubled. The population only grew 50 to 60%, depends what you read, but that's not an equation for success. So we have to do something different. We have to move from an oil and gas economy over a period of years to electrified economy. And if you look at the generation side, we're doing a lot more work in wind, a lot more work in solar. I know they're looking at some small nukes to be part of the generation side. We're looking and working on microgrids, distributed generation, so hydro, a lot of work. Just to give you an idea of the amount of what I would call renewable energy, we are now we just got done building a 28-mile run of wire and cable off the coast of Massachusetts on wind. We're now finishing up a 400-mile job coming from Canada to New York State. We're quoting some more jobs that are even larger than that. So wind and the renewables on this side of the energy continuum is there. And then we have the middle, the power and the whole power distribution and transmission. We got to continue to harden the grid. We got to continue the resilience of the grid. And companies like Southern Company are just putting more and more demand on us to help them with products that they're, again, increasing the hardening of the grid. And then on the generation, on this side, you have demand. demand is only going to go up. If you think about demand at 1x, is it going to be 1.5x? Is it going to be 2x? Is it going to be 2.5x? There's studies being done all the time on trying to figure out exactly what that demand is. And as I think you all know, if the demand side goes up, so does the power distribution side, so does the transmission side, and so does the generation side. So it's going to happen. It's just when it's going to happen, and electrification is just so important for us.
And how is Southwire doing on its very ambitious goal to be carbon neutral by 2025? What's the progress there, speaking of the topic we've just been discussing?
Let me start with this. My general counsel, my advisor, who is also the chief sustainability officer, and he's got so many titles, I'm not even going to go through them all. Bert, stand up. Bert's been a member for 4 years. And we both can tell you a lot about sustainability. It's been a journey for Southwire for quite a few years. And we decided in 2020 to have a net zero carbon footprint in our scope 1 and 2. For those who don't know, scope 1 and 2 is everything that we control. And so we are 67%, 2/3 of the way there. And in 2025, we will be net neutral in scope 1 and 2. We are now working with our friends in scope 3 on this side of the equation, the miners, and we're working with Freeport, McNamara, and others. And then on this side of the equation, we're working with our customers, people like Southern Company. Home Depot is another one here from this area on packaging. And we're coming out with products that are really carbon-free. So we got a lot going on. Things are headed in the right direction, and Bert's a big reason for that.
That's great. What do you think the percentage is right now in terms of the progress up to 2025? 40%, 50%,
We're
60%?
at 67%,
Okay.
and we'll get there. There is absolutely, the probability of us getting there is 102% maybe, something like that.
As you can see, looking around this room, Atlanta Rotary is synonymous with leadership, and want you to talk a little bit about your thoughts on leadership, what the best leaders do and don't do. You're leading a major company as their leader. Your thoughts on the topic of leadership, Rich?
Yeah, I saw when John put up on the screen all about leadership. That's what I believe in. Leaders lead, and people follow good leaders. And I can see in this room numerous executives who I know are great leaders. Early on, leadership was important for me from school government. I was in that from 7th grade all the way up through, and then captain of numerous teams that I played sports on, and it's all about leadership. And then I've had 17 different jobs. I couldn't keep a job, my wife used to say. I'd keep moving, and the higher up I got, the more leadership was important. So leadership has always been important to me. A couple phrases I think really resonate with me, and I think about them every day. One of my coaches said these 3 things. One is complacency stifles progress, which means you can never be content. No matter how good you're doing, you never can be content. 2 is hit or be hit. In the business world, that means be aggressive, and make things happen. Take risk, hit or be hit. And the 3rd one is probably my favorite one. Don't read Saturday night's newspaper about how well you played on Saturday. Think about what you're going to do next week. And you can never be complacent.
Great stuff. If you had, I'm sure you have had a mentor or two over the years that have influenced you on your leadership journey, a thought or two about this person or people.
Yeah. Well, I had numerous coaches had an influence on my life, and my grandfather, for that matter, from Italy. But the person who I would say is my greatest mentor, I actually traded texts with him Thursday. A mutual friend passed, and it was unfortunate. That's how we were talking about. But the fact was, the person's name's Jerry Whitaker, and Jerry was never complacent. Nothing was ever good enough. And Jerry always pushed and strived to be the very best. And I could remember back in the early 2000s, and The markets were tanking, and I had his biggest division at that time, and things weren't going all that well. We had a call early in the morning, and there was I would say a little bit of, you would call yelling on the phone at that point in time. He ends up banging the phone and hangs up. On the way home, about 6:15, 6:30, I'm driving, my cell phone rings, it's Jerry. We talked a little bit. He said, "Rich, what's wrong with you? What's the matter?" I said, "Well, Jerry, we had a bad meeting." He said, "You know I love everything that you do, and I love you." And he just hung up the phone, and that empathy and that strength of that guy, to this day, I'll never forget that story.
It's a great story. Share with us your thoughts on culture. I know at Southwire, culture is extremely important and essential to the growth of the organization. Share with us your thoughts on what the best cultures have and how important is trust to that equation.
Well, our culture, we use 4 words to describe our values. We have a lot of words, but the main words is empowerment, trust, consistency, and inclusion. So the word trust is definitely in our four areas. We look at the world as we want to be the employer of choice. I don't care what industry it is, we want to be the employer of choice. How do you do that? You give people autonomy, flexibility, career advancement, and your culture really drives the importance to the team member. And we work really hard on being the employer of choice. And something I learned from you, Glenn, the 2 P&Ls, right? Glenn said to me one time about the 2 P&Ls, and I knew the profit and loss maybe a little bit too well, but there's people and lives, and we use that phrase all the time, and I use that when I speak with people about people and lives, and the royalty I pay you monthly, if you would multiply it by all the people that are using that phrase, there'd be a lot of people. So people and lives are really important to us, and we continue to work, again, to be the employer of choice. We have our focus on people and lives, and when I update the shareholders on where we are, it's not only the financials, it's about the people and lives.
That's great. How is Southwire navigating the post-COVID world now in terms of the work speed and just everything that's happening there?
Well, I don't know about the rest of you, but there was no playbook for COVID, and it was a real learning experience. We did extremely well, but it took a lot of work. I did 98 videos, 98 weeks of videos to communicate to our people consistently. And it was tough. And like I said, there was no playbook. But we've come through it. In COVID, we had record years. We're now having record years. So I would say we came through it just fine. And at the heart of that, Glenn, is the culture. The fact that we can do so well, provide flexibility, get our people to be super productive and get things done. Our team members are doing a great job. So we've come through really well.
How about on the AI front? Give us an update there as it relates to Southwire.
Yeah, you'll see a smile on my face. I would admit I'm not the number one expert on AI, but I spend a hell of a lot of time on AI, to be honest with you. It's coming at us fast. It's coming at us real fast. So we set up governance on challenges on both ends of the scale and opportunities in the middle. The opportunities are great, but the challenges are also great. And like I said, it's coming at us fast and furious. If you think about AI in the middle, opportunities, machine learning. We're spending all this money, putting all this new equipment. The machines now have machine learning, and our process engineers are making sure we utilize all that data and making sure we take variation out of each operation. So machine learning is a key. Customer service, we're using machine learning. And then in our back office on payables, receivables, all the financial stuff, we're using it. So my advice to everybody here, recognize it's coming fast and furious. And for us that run companies, we got to spend time there and make sure we have the very best people. And we're looking at hiring some really strong people. The oldest one of the gang is probably 32 years old, but that's okay. They know what they're talking about.
Share with us briefly on Carrollton. Your headquarters, Southwire is headquartered in Carrollton, the importance there, Rich.
Yeah, Carrollton will always be our headquarters, and it's so important. We've grown outside of Carrollton. We have 80 different sites, but the headquarters is at Carrollton. That's where the heart of the company is, and we will remain in Carrollton forever.
And 12 for Life is also very important for Southwire, for high school students and the retention of these students. Share a little bit about that as well.
Yeah. One of the reasons I am at Southwire and left a great job at a public company is the fact of Southwire giving back. And what really impressed me was this 12 for Life program. We have one in Carrollton and we have one in Florence, Alabama. And I think when I was with you last, I was headed to Florence, Alabama right after our meeting. And what that is it increases the graduation rate. So what we have is a factory, and the young people work there. You have to be 16 years old, and you have to be in high school. They work there half the day, and they go to school half the day. So they earn a living. They understand. They become good taxpayer people. And what has happened is that the graduation rate in Florence, Alabama, which was in the 70s before, is now 98%. The one in Carrollton is similar. And the fact is that these young people, it's impressive. You go to their graduation rate, and they come up, they're proud as could be, and they should be, and most of them have their family there, and they talk about what they're going to do. About 40 to 50% of them are going to 2-year school to learn a vocation, skilled worker. About 15 to 20% go to a 4-year degree. And about 20% go to the military, and the rest either come work for us or come work for a major manufacturer. So really good stuff.
Paint the picture for us. It's 2030 now. We're on this stage again, this distinguished stage, talking to our club. What does Southwire look like in 2030 from a geographic growth standpoint, market share standpoint, vertical expansion standpoint? Southwire 2030 looks like what?
Yeah, we spend a lot of time. I spend a lot of my time thinking about our strategic plan. That's 5 years out. And then we have a 10-year out strategic plan. So that would fall right into that time frame. What is the same is our focus on quality, our focus on safety, our focus on cyber safety. All that's going to continue. Can we get better? Yes, we'll be better than what we are today. Will we be a private company? That will be the same as well. But what we'll do is we'll continue to buy companies. We've acquired 12 companies since I've been there. We're going to acquire more companies, and we're going to further modernize that. $1.5 billion, we're going to put at least another $2 billion on top of that. So we'll continue to grow there. And we'll be focused on being the employer of choice. So a lot of the ideas are the same, but we'll get bigger and better. And I'd like to think by 30 we'll go from $9 billion to about 13 to 14 billion. When I got here, we were about 4 billion, so 4 to 9 to, let's call it 13 billion.
Wow. We're going to open it up for some questions now. So feel free to ask some questions for Rich.
We've got a mic right here. Well, we have folks coming up to the mic. Rich, you mentioned your previous role is in a public company. Now you're in a very large private company. Can you give us an idea of sort of the difference between the two and which one you would like to be involved with more frequently?
Yeah. Well, that'd put a smile on my face because I retired from a great public company right at 55 years old because it was earnings per share, earnings per share, earnings per share. You know, it got to be not only was it a quarterly thing, we were talking about it on a monthly basis. And in a private company, a long-term thinking company, I'm looking out into the future, the ability to get money. I can get a lot of money in a 1-hour phone call. It would take me 6 months to get that same money in a public company. So that was a big difference. And the whole idea of a company like Southwire giving back, sustainability, not that it wasn't there, but this is in the hearts and minds of all 9,000 people. So that's the difference.
I think I know the answer to that question then, Rich. But congratulations on what you built. Dr. Rosenzweig.
Yeah. Rich, we had a great program on cybersecurity just a few weeks ago, and you mentioned something about hardening the grid. But with Chris here right next to me and yourself, do all of you work together? We think about cyber attacks on the financial system, but I worry about cyber attacks on our electric grid throughout the country. That could bring us all down, including our computer systems, et cetera.
Yeah, what I can tell you that Chris and the utilities work harder on cybersecurity within the utilities and the grid than we do. We're party to that, but I would also tell you that we had a cyber attack in 2019, and the first calls I got were from all our customers, and we protected them immediately. I mean, we have so many resilience guards. I mean, people call them different things, that we protect downstream, we protect upstream, and the way we were attacked was our downstream came this way, and we caught it within hours, really. But we protected and buffered our customers on this end and our suppliers on that end. And Chris can talk a lot more about cyber, but when I go to visit people like Chris, that is a major, major issue. I don't care what utilities, could be Southern Cal Edison, could be anybody, and it's all the same thing.
It's great to hear about that teamwork between you and Southern Company. Thank you, Chris. Jennifer.
I wanted to ask what hardening the grid means, and then everyone's way more sophisticated than I am in this room because Jeff's question was about it. So is it about security?
The part of it's about security, but a part of it's about the resilience and knowing the grid is going to be up at all points in time, right? So if you have an efficiency factor of less than 100, that's less than being optimal. So you always have to be.
Great. I wanted to ask, since you're a leader who has to be technical as well as financial and then leading people, what do you think of those three has been the most challenging?
Say that again.
Technical, business, and people.
All the above. I mean, people, there are a lot of us that are engineers that have MBAs as well. I mean, doesn't mean that you just got to be technical or you just got to be business. Some of our best leaders are very well skilled. And, my advice to people who say, well, what advice do you give me in my career is to get exposure points. That's the most important point, is to take this job, this job, this job, this job. Maybe they're lateral moves across the board just to make you better going forward and a better leader going forward.
Sir, when I heard you talking about the values of Southwire, I could see Roy Richards Sr. and Roy Richards Jr. I knew them both. I know Jr., he's a fellow faculty member with me. I was at Emory Hospital and had to tell the family that their father was dead of a brain tumor. So can you talk about how that family made Southwire what it is today with the leadership that has the same values?
That's a great question. So the one is that there's great history, there's great foundation, and a foundation that we can build upon. So that's the first answer to that question. Second is there's 5 major shareholders, and all they want to do is to take this company to the 3rd generation, the 4th generation, the 5th generation. And the idea of getting money to invest is an easy thing because this is all about long-term base, and the family is all about being long-term base. They want their grandkids and then their great-grandkids to have a business that continues to grow. And like I said, we are modernizing the factories. We are investing in other businesses. Instead of going overseas to find market share, what we've done is, with the family, agreed upon a strategy of taking the wire and cable business of $26 billion market up to $60 billion market, getting into other products, other tool sets, other businesses here in North America. So the family has been nothing but helpful and nothing but, they're not intrusive at all. So very, very good people to work for.
Dan.
I've really enjoyed your talk. Thank you again for taking the time to speak with us, and always good to see you, Bert. Wanted to just ask, as you grow to 12 billion plus, roughly triple since you've taken the helm, can you talk about international dynamics in your purchasing strategies or in the clients that you'll be serving with all that's going on in the world? Just something about the international impacts on your business as you continue to grow the entity.
The international expansion of Southwire.
No, we're not going to be expanding internationally. There's not a need to. We have about a $60 billion market here at home. The risk of going overseas versus the reward, not as great. Us staying here in North America and getting into other businesses, we're buying businesses that Southwire's never been in before, but they're North America based, and are just taking off. We're also now in an electrical service business that the sky's the limit there, so there's no need to go overseas.
Will any of your buying patterns change from Asia or from other parts of the world in how you source material?
Yeah, the reshoring and nearshoring, we are in the process of doing that as we speak.
Yeah, thank you.
So Rich, let me ask a follow-up question. That's very interesting, because when we talk about particularly technology companies and the like, you think about small unicorns, the potential to go public. People are attracted to the company because they want to get options and go public. These technology companies and fast-growing companies are all going international. You've taken a little different approach, focused on the U.S., your success here. How do you motivate people to come to work for the company, and how do you motivate them when they're there versus what you'd see in a technology company?
Yeah, it's easy to motivate people when you're winning. Let me just say, I've played on 2 and 10 teams, and I've played on 10 and 2 teams. I played on championship teams. People want to come and people want to work, and it's easy to motivate when you're winning. And I only see us winning forever, right? So that's one big element. The second element goes back to being the employer choice, flexibility. They see the career. The company keeps getting bigger, right? So they see a career here at the company. They can just grow and grow and grow. And a lot of people, from the overseas question, don't immediately get it. It took me 18 months to get it. Like I came in thinking we need to grow, internationally. That was the wrong answer to that equation.
That's great. Very interesting case study there as well. So you've given some great examples of leadership lessons. And our theme this year, as you know, is leadership lessons for service and growth. So to sort of paraphrase some of your comments, complacency stifles progress. I think you've emphasized that more than a few times, Rich, and I have a feeling that is a theme within the Southwire community. Right, Southwire folks? Yes. Okay, so leaders are about action, and nothing moves faster than the speed of trust. Maybe speak about the last one in particular, the notion of trust and how you've instilled that within your organization.
Yeah, trust takes time. I came from a public company, and it took me probably 18 months till people saw, we have a consistent agenda. We're consistently moving here, consistently doing the right things, and consistently taking the organization to the next level. That builds trust. And I think that people think that you just get trust. You don't just get trust, you earn trust. You have to be credible, your programs have to be credible, and you got to be consistent on what you do. One group doesn't get this and the other one gets that. Everyone's got to trust that you're going to do the right thing consistently. And I got to say a lot, because there's a lot of people who come into a new company and just change this, change this, change this, change this, and 10 years later they're still changing things. You can't do that. You have to have people that understand that you can be trusted. Your door's always open, and you're going to shoot straight. And sometimes the message might not be loved, but the fact is you got to be a direct shooter and say what needs to be said. People trust you for that.
Rich, congratulations on your success at Southwire. Thank you for your commitment to Georgia and the city of Carrollton. And Glenn, thank you for a great set of questions. Let's give them a hand, please. Very quickly, upcoming programs. Next week, Anna Roach, the CEO of Atlanta Regional Commission, speaking on how our growing region is preparing for emerging technologies, artificial intelligence, EVs, and advanced air mobility. Think about advanced air mobility. That'll be interesting to hear that discussion. On November 6th, leadership principles from military deployed for civilians and business success. General, thank you very much for being a part of that program and leading it. And November 13th, Community Day, homelessness, bringing forth empathy and solutions. Thank you for joining us today. Have a wonderful afternoon.